I'm Jonathan Gerwitz, Vice President of KGB Texas Communications, and welcome to thePoint. This episode, we're visiting with Dan Menelly, the CEO of the DoSeum. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you. Welcome to the DoSeum.
The Children's Museum reopened as the DoSeum in 2015.
That's right.
Talk about why museums and why these opportunities for learning are so important to San Antonio.
Well, it's a great investment. You know, when you work with a young learner, their progression and their learning, that stays with them their whole life. So we find that if we work with young children and we keep them confident and curious, as they go on in their learning and things become more abstract and more complex, we really want them to hang on to their passion, their curiosity, and to stay confident. Right now, so much in the classroom is so prescriptive. We feel it's really important for museums and other nonprofits to partner with schools to open up the instruction, to give kids more agency and more voice. But it's just such an exciting time in learning, and we find that the combination of formal and informal learning together is very powerful.
So let's talk about that. Here at the DoSeum, you have opportunities for children to learn about science, about math, about art, about literacy. How do you partner with our schools and with the nonprofits to enhance those opportunities?
Well, I think San Antonio is a great city to run a museum in because it is so fully collaborative. We have really a nicely articulated cultural sector, and the DoSeum sort of sits in the middle of it. We're right on the Broadway's cultural corridor, and we work very closely with the other nonprofits and the other museums to make sure that our content is vertically integrated, so that at each level in your learning, there is a fantastic space in San Antonio for you to go and develop. With us and the young learners, this campus here, it features about 250 interactive exhibits, and each one of them is focused on a learning progression towards something: literacy, numeracy, design thinking, and we're fortunate. And so what happened was Pedro Martinez, school superintendent, came to the DoSeum before my time and built the relationship whereby we train teachers. And we have developed a master core of teachers who are training in a specialized curriculum. It's really one of the first models that teaches engineering for primary science students, for young learners, getting them to think about how systems work, how can you design an experiment of your own, how can you test it, go back and revisit it. These are really global competencies for learning, and we really feel it's important for teachers, as we know more about learning, we have to act on that knowledge. And so we're really excited that school districts like SAISD are partnering with museums and other nonprofits to start looking meaningfully at how can we support the learning.
You have a new exhibit coming this summer.
We do. We're really excited. Yeah, it's called Going Places.
Going Places?
Going Places.
Which is going to challenge students to think about how they can improve their community?
Yeah, the DoSeum, one of our strategic orientations is futurism and getting young learners to think more proactively about the future. What will things be like, systems and structures, and what will their role be in this future? When we had our last summer, we had a wonderful exhibit called Dream Tomorrow Today, where we had young learners envisioning future versions of transportation and housing. So this summer we have Going Places, which is really about the foundational science behind transportation and some of the big ideas, these foundational concepts, and it's pretty exciting because it's a bigger exhibit than we typically have in a traveling exhibit. There'll be a blimp tank of remotely actuated blimps, and
nice.
The kids will pilot them in a giant cage, and then there'll be a hovercraft, and the kids will, it's fun. They're going to float around on a layer of air, but when they come to 4th or 5th grade and learn about friction and resistance, we're hoping that the experience of having floated around on a hovercraft at the DoSeum is going to be their frame of reference.
And looking at the future and giving children this kind of experiential learning, how does that play into workforce development in San Antonio?
On several domains. When I came and looked at the DoSeum and I met the board and I met the team, I saw a very fast-growing creative economy. And I see other cities in Northern Europe, in New York, where I'm from, that region. A lot of these cities are emerging and growing and developing by building a culture of incubation and having a lot of startup mentality. And now we're learning that if a young child can self-perceive or to consider themselves an innovator, it's more likely that they'll become part of that. I don't want their education to simply happen to them. I want them to become an agent in it, to have more voice and agency. So in terms of workforce development, what we're focusing on with the very young learners are the global competencies, keeping them curious and confident and collaborative, keeping them interested, and building a solid foundation. If a little kid is confident in their thinking, you can challenge them in a more robust way. We would love for their time at the DoSeum to position them for success in school and also later in life.
Well, Dan, thank you and your staff for all the great things that you're doing here. And thank you for joining us this month on thePoint.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I watch this podcast and I learned so much from it.
Thank you.
Thank you.